Hey y'all. So today's video is going to be episode 2 of the relationship between the spiritual things and mental health. And today we're going to look at determining if your mental health case is rooted in natural causes or the things of the spirit. Help me, Father. So when I say that, I need to make it clear that either way, I'm not saying that one is more or less legitimate than the other. I'm not saying that one matters more than the other. It's just a different consideration when considering if it's primarily a spirit or most likely a spirit versus not. This is important for the healing process because if it's one or the other, there will be a different healing protocol. This is something that, while it's considered in the world, it is considered, but it's handled differently, I guess. There's not, obviously, their view of it isn't, is it spiritual or is it natural? It's just, they just take it and it's like, what contributed to you feeling this way? Getting to this place, getting to this state. And while there's plenty of outside factors, natural factors, things like, how you live, how you grew up, anything like that, can definitely have a hand in your mental health. Will, absolutely. No other way about it. It might not be all of the picture. In fact, it's not all of the picture. I've talked about this before, but the Holy Spirit gave me a conviction when it came to, or a lesson, I suppose, when it came to understanding if something is, if a mental health case is spiritual or not. So I believe I've already actually spoken about this, but this is going to be like a quicker lesson on that. I think I was going through like different types of mental illness or something like that. I don't remember exactly all that was in the video, but I did touch on this before. So you can look for that video if you want. You can also look for the video that talks about if your problems are natural or spiritual. But if not, that's okay too. But anyways, so when considering your mental health, there are two origins from where, or mental health affliction, sorry, there are two origins to consider. There is natural and conditional. I don't know why I wrote it down, but I wrote it down. Natural versus conditional. Natural versus conditional. So when we're looking at something that's natural, we're looking at a situation that was caused, a mental health affliction, depression, anxiety, whatever it is, that was caused either by a specific event or trauma or something like that. So it's very specific. There's a direct line to why you have developed certain attitudes, certain feelings, whatever. When we're looking at it being conditional, we're talking about something that's a lot broader, that has to do with the way in which your mind has been conditioned to think. By the way, disclaimer, I am not a mental health expert, nor am I claiming to be. I'm not trying to diagnose anyone or anything like that. I'm giving the spiritual side to it so you know that there is another perspective to be had out there. And if you feel inclined to seek healing from the Lord from this, you will have it, but that's all I'm here for. So I'm trying to think of how he wants me to share this video, but a natural situation, not only does it have a very like distinct starting place, it is safe to say that the spiritual influence is not as great as if it's conditional. I'll explain. But keep in mind that both natural and conditional can still have a spiritual component to it. They can definitely still have a spiritual component to it. My personal belief is that it almost always has a spiritual component to it. There may be some exception to that. I'm not sure. You know, when we're talking about if it's like your, what is it called? Like, you know, when someone goes through puberty, as teenager, whatever the case is, and their hormone levels are like all over the place and fluctuating and stuff. That's a really common time for people to go through depression and whatever. If it's biochemical related or like genetic or something like that, if there's a hand in that, if there's a consideration to be had there, then you know, that may or may not have spiritual influence attached to it. It just depends. But I don't know if it does or if it doesn't. I have no idea. But it very well could. It might or it might not. All of it either can or cannot. But if it's natural, it's less likely. Because say you see something traumatic. If you see something traumatic or go through something traumatic, say like you're in a car crash or something like that, and especially if you're like a kid. First of all, the way in which kids process things is very different from adults. Kids don't even know what to do with what they're experiencing most of the time. So because of that discrepancy, there is room for them to process things incorrectly, you know? But I mean, either way, like you would, if you went through something dramatic, whether you're a kid, traumatic, whether you're a kid or not, you can have a adverse response to it, and that is a natural and normal human response. It's just how it would be, how it, you know, how it normally would go. If it's conditional, if we're looking at a conditional situation, we're looking at something that, well, is a product of typically the society that you live in. A lot of the mental health stuff that we're seeing, while it affects the whole world, we're seeing higher concentrations of it in the West. And no surprise, we also have such a society, such a day and age where everything is so, like for instance with anxiety, everything is so pulling on our attention and our thoughts and our feelings all the time. Life is so like rapid. It's in such a way, in such a pace that it's like, I mean, anyone would develop anxiety with the kind of life that we've created here, you know. That would be an example, that can be an example. And I'll actually give you an even better example. I wish I knew the term, the word for it. But there's actually this phenomenon in Japan. Someone maybe knows this, where young people, I don't know if it's so much of a thing now, but it was like within the past 5 years or so, where young people, the work ethic is so like us kind of, but maybe even worse probably, where young people would end up with heart issues and stuff like that from the amount of stress that they were taking on trying to keep up with the demand. And I found that crazy, but it goes to show that in certain areas you can have certain issues or afflictions or whatever because simply of the lifestyle, because it can be a conditional thing. There was also a study that was done on younger people and them experiencing a specific type of anxiety linked to not having their phone either like with them or on them or something like that. And I don't remember the statistics at all, unfortunately, sorry, but it was like saying how younger people who don't have their phones with them will experience anxiety type symptoms. And like, I get that because I can relate, but it's like, wow, we've actually like made a type of anxiety. And this needs to be understood that not every anxiety should be treated equally, you know. So when considering that, that's also something that would fall under the conditional category. Conditional things, conditional afflictions have a higher chance of it being spiritually influenced, because in that case it's pretty much, and it's not entirely spiritual, by the way, like it could just be also you, but in that case, how do I explain this? I'm not sure how to explain this. You're dealing less with a normal, natural human response to seeing something really tragic, really horrible, really something like that. You're dealing more with something that is almost completely mental. Not entirely, but almost. Now, even within that, there is a division, because some of that can just be a symptom of you being in your head way too much. And some of that can be, no, you actually have a spirit of anxiety afflicting you. I hope that makes sense. So why does this matter? Why is this important? When understanding that there are these different considerations to make, as I said earlier, it will help you with your healing process, with your liberation process, whatever you want to call it. It will help you in the way that you specifically need help, not in a way that so-and-so over here needed help or so-and-so over there needed help, but how you specifically need help. Again, as I say, I do believe that a lot of it is spiritually influenced. I think I cut myself off, but I was explaining earlier that the Holy Spirit gave me the revelation that most things are, in regards to mental health, most things are spiritual. But he didn't say all, so I can't say all. So with that consideration in mind, you have to take to the Lord, you need to take your situation to the Lord and ask him to help you with your healing. He can and he will, absolutely. I don't think I've shared it on here, but I have a testimony of him delivering me from a spirit of anxiety. And other things as well. Because mine was more conditional. Mine was more a product of me being in my head too much, or really like my environment and that kind of thing. And that requires, for me, it was more of just like, okay, I'm just going to choose to focus on the Lord regardless of my environment. Now, obviously, like, before I came to that way of thought, I was like, well, just get me up out of here, right? But the truth with that, and that's how the world would see it, you're not healed if that, you're just going to take that anxiety and you're going to take it to the next place. You're going to take it to the next place. You're going to take it to the next place. And, or it's also going to cause you to have resentment and, bitterness or whatever towards your environment, towards, people, whatever. That is a sign that you're not healed. So, both things need to be considered. I personally, this is just a personal thought, personal suggestion. If you know you went through something really traumatic, something like that, I would first and foremost give it to the Lord, but I would definitely seek out therapy for sure. Now, if yours is more conditional, I would say you can partner with the Lord and pray, and you can still go to therapy if you want. But to be honest, it's more often than not, it will have to do with, again, being in your head and spiritual affliction. I didn't really know how to categorize if it's like a hormone imbalance or something. I don't know. Take that up with the Lord. I have no idea. Because I feel like that's kind of, it's considered natural, but I don't know. You would technically need like healing. So I don't know. Take that back to the Lord. I'm not able to figure that one out. But it's really important that you make this distinction, because it will help you know how to navigate dealing with whatever mental affliction you're dealing with. And by the way, this could be anything. There are people who think, well, this could be, but this isn't, like maybe if we're dealing with more extreme stuff, like maybe like schizophrenia or something like that. No, that's not true. In fact, the more extreme it gets, the more likely you're dealing with a spirit. We're getting to the point of it causing harm to others and stuff like that, you're dealing with a spirit at that point. Like, for sure. So, yeah, I hope this helped. I hope it was clear what I was saying. Like or comment if anything wasn't unclear. And yeah, that's all I have for you. Bye.